Things I wish I knew earlier and did earlier that have drastically impacted how I perform in life. That's the video. Here are my points from my journal. Let's go through each of them. Now, first one is sleeping 8 hours. This is something that everyone kind of tells you, but I was the idiot in class that was just not getting enough sleep for some reason. After high school, when I got into university, from the ages of 18 to 23, whilst I was doing my degree, I had a lot of stuff that I needed to get done. And I couldn't focus on all of them for the same amount of time and just be okay with it because I needed to prioritize a bunch of different things at different periods of time. And so that meant something had to give. And unfortunately, that was my sleep. So I was realistically getting around maybe 4.5 hours of sleep a night, consistently for a very long period of time. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not recommend that. If you're someone who sleep deprives himself because you do not think that you can get the things done in your day, then the problem isn't your sleep and the problem isn't that you have too many things. The problem instead is that you're just not using that time very efficiently and effectively. Because now, once I've actually gotten a good amount of sleep and once I've built the tools to be able to work on things efficiently, my productivity has increased drastically and the amount of time that I spend on tasks have decreased drastically, which means that I now have more time to do other things, which is great. So when I started getting 8 hours to 9 hours of sleep a night, which is pretty much double what I was getting back in the day, it felt very weird because I still felt tired because of all the accumulated sleep debt that I had. But then it also felt very strange because I wasn't struggling to articulate my points and recall information and kind of go through my day. Before, even just waking up and getting to university, because it's a very long drive for me, required a ludicrous amount of mental effort. And so when I got to campus, I would genuinely feel exhausted. And that was like 8 a.m. in the morning. And so I needed to go through all like 7 hours of my day while still feeling exhausted. Now I don't have to deal with that. And now I crash kind of halfway through the day, which I have strategies for now. But getting 8 hours of sleep a night or 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night is unbelievably helpful. Now, I'm not saying that you have to get this every single night. There will be times where you might need to pull an all-nighter or two, where you might need to stay up until 3 a.m. doing a group project and things like that. Of course. But as a general rule of thumb, if you can get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, then I would strongly recommend you do, because that has given me the most return on investment in anything that I've ever done. Genuinely, the amount of time and effort and energy it takes for me to do things has drastically reduced because of the fact that I've increased my sleep. Okay, so it's the reverse in proportionality, which is insane to me. So I would highly recommend, if you're not already, get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. Start focusing on that now, because you will see dividends in 2 to 3 months from now. The next thing I want to say is drink plenty of water and also cut back on the sugary drinks. This includes things like milk, like chocolate milk, strawberry milk, protein milk, all that type of stuff that are like the up and goes and stuff like that as well, which I still have every now and then when I'm trying to hit my protein goals. But sugary drinks like Coke, Pepsi, Fanta, Sprite, even things like Coke Zero. I know technically it's not sugar, but it basically is sugar because it's just a bunch of artificial sweeteners or even natural sweeteners, right? But there is still sugar in there. And all those fizzy kind of junk foody stuff, you should just try and cut out as much as you can. If you're someone who is really addicted to like fizzy drinks and soda, what I would recommend is you can start downing sparkling water. So recently I started getting into sparkling water and it is genuinely a game changer. So I'm sure this is a very recognizable bottle. I'm not going to talk about what the brand and stuff is because you should probably know what that is. Just type in green bottle sparkling water and you'll be able to find it. But I kind of leave one of those in the car because in the morning when I'm fasting and trying to get to university, I can just chug on that and I get 750 mils done in a day, which is half of the, or almost half of the daily required intake. But drinking lots of water is unbelievably helpful because a lot of the time, mental fog for me specifically came from the fact that I just felt slightly dehydrated. And so if you are someone who's consistently drinking water and water is your main source of like liquid beverage, then it does actually pay dividends in a very weird way because you just feel a little bit better about yourself. So if you're someone who struggles with like fizzy drinks and drinking a lot of soda and stuff like that, I would strongly recommend take sparkling water instead to try and taper off of it and then eventually go into normal water. You can even get, like, I know there are these packets and stuff of flavored things that aren't technically unhealthy. They're like these electrolyte things that you can dip in. I'm not a fan of those. I haven't really done enough research on that. But if that's the way you want to go, you can do it too. Just drink lots and lots of water because it is unbelievably helpful. Now, the third thing that I've done that has drastically changed my life is time blocking. Now, this is something that you may have heard of if you're in the productivity niche stuff, but I'm going to kind of explain how I time block because that will give you a little bit more context into how I work. And so then tell you why it's so impactful for me and why it's in like my top 6 things that I've ever done. So what I do is whenever I time block something, I just book out the time that I need, like all the time for whatever task I have. So this is back in high school as well. So if I had tutoring on one day or if I had an after school activity, I would block out that time and then try and map out roughly how long it would take me to get back home and then when I would be ready to do work and stuff. I still do that to this day. Like I block out any commitments that I have, any meetings that I have throughout the week, and the free blocks that I have, I'd even kind of recommend booking out what you would do in those free blocks, kind of like a to-do list. So I've used time blocking in a weird way, which is I've merged my to-do list with my time block together. So a lot of people have them separate, which is fine, but for me, it's just easier when I go, okay, cool, I have this thing on my to-do list. I'm going to use this specific time to do that thing. Yeah. And so that's helped me with a lot more direction in my day and also getting things done a little bit quicker than I initially thought it would. So that's how I use time blocking. Now, the interesting thing about time blocking is once I started getting very into it, once I started becoming very used to my timetable and schedule, I started to kind of gamify it a little bit in a weird sense because I would try and beat the clock for the task. So what I mean by that is if I allocated 2 hours to do something, let's say an assignment, I would basically go, okay, well, how long would it take me to realistically do the assignment if I wanted to do it all in one sitting? Well, let's see if I can do it in 2 hours in one sitting, right? And I would get 75% of the way there when initially I would have planned to only get halfway through. And so that would be kind of where my mind would go to begin with. Then over time, there was this really weird thing that happened, which is I would allocate time to do something and then I would go, there's no way this is going to take me an hour. And I try and get it done in half the time or 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever it is. And so instead of allocating the full 1 hour to do that one thing, which is the initial to-do list plan and task blocking plan, time blocking plan, I would try and cut back on it and get it done as quickly as possible to the same level of quality. And it would save me pretty much the rest of the time to do whatever else I wanted. And once I started doing that, I got way more done in my day. And I think that that's what a lot of people miss in time blocking because they think, oh, if I'm going to spend an hour to do it, I'm going to spend the full hour doing it, but then you don't finish it at all. It's like, no, just use that 1 hour and then try and use as much of that as you can and see if you can finish it quicker. So it comes down into Pareto's principle a little bit, which is like how long you think something would take. Maybe is it Pareto's principle? No, it's something else. I'm going to Google it because I can't remember. I think it's Pareto's principle or Parkinson's law. It might be Parkinson's law, actually. Yeah, I think Parkinson's law says that. I'll Google it after. But it's the task will take as long as you think it does. So the task expands to take the time that you allocate to it, which is why if you're a procrastinator, you will always leave the task until Friday or Thursday or whatever the day is, because you know that you will be able to condense the amount of time it takes to do that thing in the shortest period of time when you could have just done it a little bit earlier, right? So there is that. So Parkinson's law, I'm pretty sure. I'll Google it, but I'm pretty sure it's that. So a lot of people use time blocking with the idea of Parkinson's law. I kind of use as the inverse Parkinson's law, which is effectively the time that you take on something should take less than the time you allocate to it. So that's what I would suggest with time blocking. Now, the fourth thing that I would suggest, and that has strongly changed the way that my life has gone, is being able to properly reflect instead of ruminate. So there's actually a difference between both of those things in a psychological definition. Or a psychology definition, so not psychological definition. But in psychology, there's like a difference between both of them, rumination and reflection. So the interesting thing is, both of them require you to think about the past, right? Both of the tasks, both reflection and rumination require you to think about the past. But reflection is looking at what can you actually physically improve going forward. In other words, you had a lesson taught to you. What can you take from the lesson going forward? Rumination is when your mind keeps replaying that same lesson and you don't learn anything. And you go, well, I could have done this, I could have done that differently. And you constantly replay the things in your mind. Reflection is you learn the lesson once and then you change your behavior directly after. In other words, it's a state of learning, right? That's what learning, I define learning as. It's like, hey, you get a piece of information. Can you change your behavior based off of it? So reflection is actually a very important tool for learning. And if you're able to reflect on a lot of the things that you're doing in life, whether it's talking more confidently with people, or trying to perform well in math and science tests, or trying to get into selective entry schools, or trying to become, a top performer in your sport, whatever it is, being able to critically analyze and reflect the situation that you were in and the result that you ended up getting allows you to more properly adjust your trajectory to whatever the forward momentum is going to be. The issue is nobody teaches you how to do it because for everyone it's different. Okay? Nobody teaches how to do it because for everyone it's different. So for me, reflection mainly comes down into what can I teach better? How can I elaborate and be more eloquent, right? And being able to dissect and dilute information and concentrate it, not dilute, sorry, concentrate information into the most digestible format for you, right? So this means that I need to use somewhat simple language because my audience is like, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, comparative to, everyone else who's talking to adults. And a lot of people don't read, and you guys have TikTok and you guys have social media and Instagram and all that stuff, right? So it's like, I need to be able to dissect my information in a very concentrated way and format. And so whenever I look back at a video and I go, well, I could have said this better, I could have said that better, I could have done this, it's like I'm taking that data point and I'm using it to become better for the next iteration. Okay. And that's what you need to do as well. So whenever you get a failing test or whatever it is, you should be okay, well, what's the lesson I learned? And then apply it going forward. Number 5 is read widely. Now, I'm someone who strongly recommends if you're not someone who reads on a daily, if not weekly basis, you should 100% do it. So why do I say this? Well, for me, reading has been something that has always given me dividends. And the best analogy I can give you is I haven't met a successful person that hasn't read, right? This is whatever your metric of success is. Mine is money. I've met a lot of people who are very, very rich and successful in terms of money who have all read. I'm yet to meet a single successful person that has not read widely. Now, does this mean that reading widely guarantees monetary success? No, absolutely not. It just so happens to be that everyone who is successful has read before. And so I think that there is a correlation rather than causation. You're not guaranteed to become monetarily successful if you've read books, but there is a direct correlation. Okay? So when people say read widely, the biggest mistake that a lot of people do is they try and read cover to cover and take every single piece of information from the book itself. And this is where people start doing things like note taking and all the mind mapping and things like applications where it gives you the quote highlight and you're able to link it into your note taking app and create annotated notes and stuff from it. There is a time and place to do all those things, but if you're just doing it casually and leisurely to get passive information, then I don't think that that's necessary. And I think it actually gives you more stress if you try and dissect every single little detail about the book. So for example, something like Deep Work by Cal Newport, which is something that I'm rereading now, okay? This book, basically the gospel when it comes to being able to work for a long period of time and being able to create effective work. However, if you try and read it cover to cover, you will be incredibly overwhelmed because there's way too much information in here. So what I would suggest is, you can take this as a piece of advice. You read it for 10 minutes. You read this book for 10 minutes. You might even treat it like a textbook. So you probably don't read a textbook cover to cover, right? If you do, crazy, but you probably don't, okay? What I would do is I would look at the chapters and see which chapters are actually relevant to me. So for example, the first chapter is chapter 1, deep work is valuable, which is the idea. And so if I have no idea what deep work is, and I don't know anything about it, I might read that chapter for 10 minutes, take no notes on it. But if there's a specific thing that resonates with me, if there's a really specific idea that feels like it sparks curiosity in my soul, right? For lack of better terms. I know that's very wishy-washy, but for lack of a better term, it genuinely ignites me and lights me up a little bit. If I read that and I go, wow, that's a really interesting idea, that's all I'm going to take for that reading session. That might even be the only thing I take from the book. I take one thing from the book. That sounds kind of sad when you say it aloud, but I guarantee that you will actually keep that thing for the rest of your life. There are certain books that I've read cover to cover that I genuinely can't remember a single thing from, and that is officially a waste of my time. But then there are other books where I've read maybe a chapter or two, but it's given me way more information and knowledge and a different perspective on things. You can't do this for all books, so right now I'm trying to transition to philosophy. It's very difficult for me to read philosophy books, right? I just haven't built the muscle to do it yet, and I'm trying to learn how to do it. It sucks for me right now. But normal nonfiction books that anyone can read, pop culture books, whatever it is, 10 minutes a day, take one thing from the book. Don't try and take everything from the book, take one thing from the book. And apply that one thing meticulously and see if it actually works for you and what you can do to change it and modify and based off the data that you have, go forward from it. So that's what I mean when I say read widely. You don't have to take every single detail from the book and apply one book as gospel for everything. Just read one book, take one thing from it, and apply it into your life. This doesn't have to be reading books. You can listen to podcasts, you can listen to audiobooks. Just take one thing from it and apply it. And if you do that consistently, you will be in a much better position for the rest of your life. The very last thing is think for yourself. This is probably the thing that I have tried to apply for the longest period of time, which is, for lack of a better term, trying to think, if there was no one else around me trying to tell me how I should live my life, how would I live my life? What would I do in a day-to-day basis? What would I have done differently? Who would I have talked to? What could I have done? What would my life even look like? And the thought behind this is, if there was no one around, then I would genuinely do the things that would make me the most happy. That's the hypothesis, that's the conjecture. And so, if that is the case, why am I not living in that way as of now? Well, one could be social norms. So for example, let's say that one of the things I would like to do, not that I do want to do this, is go out publicly drinking and be intoxicated and drive. Right? That's very unsafe. I don't want to do that, but let's just say that that's something that would give me the most amount of pleasure. I will not do that because it is against the law and also social norms and also danger. Okay, cool, great. By doing this thought experiment, I can then understand what I value and how I should live my life in accordance to my own virtues and my own laws. If you're someone who's religious, you can use God or, principles or whatever you want. I'm not sure what religion you are, obviously. But if you are into that spiritual, religious stuff, you can apply those rules as well into the frame, being like, oh, well, if God viewed how I looked at things, how would he want me to live, right? But the idea of this is, if there was no one else around you, what would you do differently? If the actions that you have were guaranteed to succeed, what would you do differently? If these actions had no repercussion, what would you do, right? And being able to understand your own values and then redirect your trajectory based off of that is a very important skill. The next level up from this is being able to take ideas and concepts and be able to genuinely analyze them on your own. So I'll give you an example in real life that I had to deal with. So in my business, when I was first making, clarity coaching, there was a couple people who were telling me the idea of like, oh, you should charge this, this, and this for this because of the competition and because of this, this, and that. And I was just like, okay, cool, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. And they were like, oh, well, if you're going to charge this, then you should include this, this, and this, and da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, I'll think about it. And then for about 2 days, I kind of locked myself in my room and I didn't look at anything. And I kind of just looked at the quality of stuff that I wanted to put out and the quantity and what exactly it was and how it would help students and all that type of stuff. And I just objectively looked at all of it and I thought to myself, well, other companies are charging that, sure, whatever. I don't really care. But this can have this impact on these types of people. And so I think it's worth this much. And I came up with my own number for that. And then I brought it back to these people and they were shocked because they were like, wow, this is like way different to what we thought. And I was like, yeah, but it feels right because I'm not doing this, but I am doing this. I'm not doing that, but I'm doing this. And also when you said that, I didn't agree with it, so I'm not doing it at all, right? And so I basically broke down all of the points that they had because it didn't make sense to me. And that happened to be one of the most popular things in our, clarity coaching business, which is the masterclass workshops. And so that was kind of like an important thing for me to be able to do. So in other words, if you were isolated from everyone else, what would you think about and what would you do? If you are able to allocate all 6 things into your life and apply all 6 things into your life in a reasonable time frame, you will be 10 steps ahead of everyone else. And I wish that I had that when I was your age because it would have saved me so much time, so much effort, and so much energy, really. And I think I'd be a lot further than I am now. Anyway, that's it. That's the video. You know the drill by now. Don't like, don't comment, don't sub. Log off and do something else now. See ya.